CAR T cell therapy is a modern treatment, particularly for blood cancers like leukemias and lymphomas. And it's based on the idea that we can modify cells of the immune system to recognize and kill cancer cells. So when a patient has something like a leukemia, we can harvest cells of their immune system from them, called T cells, and modify them so that they recognize these cancer cells, and when they're put back in the patient, they go and kill the cancer cells. And they dramatically increase their own numbers as well in the process of doing this. The effect of this is to have a big inflammatory reaction, and the cancer cells are killed pretty much as an infection would be killed in the normal course of events by inflammation. When we have inflammation going on, it's a complex process which requires the recruitment of lots of cells from around the blood. There are different classes of white cells that are gathered together to attack the alien substance that's being rejected or killed by the immune system. Those cells that are required to be brought in from around the body to do this are recruited by a series of chemical messengers called cytokines, and there are hundreds of these. And cytokine release syndrome happens when the inflammatory response just goes out of control and kind of almost becomes like an atomic reaction. It becomes, a chain reaction which brings too many cells and releases too many cytokines. And in the process of inflammation, the body itself becomes compromised. So you get very high temperatures and you get kidney failure, and sometimes the results are totally catastrophic and can lead to death. So cytokine release syndrome has been a big problem with CAR T therapy over time, and affects a significant proportion of people and complicates the treatment. So it has been a bit of a holy grail to be able to identify and deal with it rapidly before it causes too much trouble in a patient. POLB 001 is a small molecule which targets a pivot point in the inflammatory response. So there's a network, a web of different reactions catalyzed by different enzymes in the body, which result in the production of lots of different cytokines. POLB 001 targets a particular enzyme called P38 MAP kinase. And this is a kind of signal coordination center enzyme in the inflammatory response. So if we can damp down the activity of this enzyme, we slow down the messaging through that pivot point, and we damp down the overall inflammatory response. So we are much less likely to get too much cytokines produced when the inflammatory process gets going. So in CAR T therapy, we anticipate that our drug, by down-regulating the pivotal enzyme P38 MAP kinase, we can limit the amount of cytokines produced and turn off or substantially suppress the cytokine release syndrome that can be so destructive to patients who have received this treatment.